Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton. Chapter 33. Introductory Quote. We must undoubtedly criticize wrong ideas of every description. It certainly would not be right to refrain from criticism, look on while wrong ideas spread unchecked, and allow them to monopolize the field. Mistakes must be criticized, and poisonous weeds fought wherever they crop up. Chairman Mao, Little Red Book. Section: The Defection of Eldridge and Reactionary Suicide. A revolutionary party is under continual stress from both internal and external forces. By its very nature, a political organization dedicated to social change invites attack from the established order, constantly vigilant to destroy it. This danger is taken for granted by the committed revolutionary. Indeed, oppression first shaped the spirit of resistance within him, and so it can neither defeat nor destroy his resolve. But he has two far greater enemies: the failure of vision and the loss of the original revolutionary concept. Either of these can lead to alienation from those the revolutionary seeks to set free. Eldridge Cleaver was guilty of both. When I came out of prison in August 1970, the party was in shambles. This was understandable for a number of reasons. Bobby and I had been off the streets and in jail for a long time, and it had been difficult to direct the party on a day-to-day basis from prison cells. Then, too, the party was harassed and beleaguered. Intelligence organizations throughout the country had become obsessed with the desire to destroy the Black Panther Party. Many of the brothers had been hunted down, imprisoned, or killed. These external assaults were formidable. But there was a far more serious reason for the party's difficulties, one that threatened its very raison d'être. The party was heading down the road to reactionary suicide. Under the influence of Eldridge Cleaver, it had lost sight of its initial purpose and become caught up in irrelevant causes. Estranged from black people who could not relate to it, the Black Panther Party had defected from the community. The party was born in a particular time and place. It came into being with a call for self-defense against the police who patrolled our communities and brutalized us with impunity. Until then, there had been little resistance to the occupiers. We sought to provide a counterforce, a positive image of strong and unafraid black men in the community. The emphasis on weapons was a necessary phase in our evolution, based on Frantz Fanon's contention that the people have to be shown that the colonizers and their agents, the police, are not bulletproof. We saw this action as a bold step in making our program known and raising the consciousness of the people. But we soon discovered that the weapons and uniforms set us apart from the community. We were looked upon as an ad hoc military group, acting outside the community fabric, and too radical to be a part of it. Perhaps some of our tactics at the time were extreme. Perhaps we placed too much emphasis on military action. We saw ourselves as the revolutionary vanguard, and did not fully understand then that only the people can create the revolution. At any rate, for 2 or 3 years, our image in the community was intimidating. The people misunderstood us and did not follow our lead in picking up the gun. At the time, there was no clear solution to this dilemma. We were a young revolutionary group seeking answers and ways to alleviate racism. We had chosen to confront an evil head-on and within the limits of the law. But perhaps our military strategy was too much of a, quote, great leap forward. Nonetheless, I believe that the Black Panther approach in 1966 and 1967 was basically a good and necessary phase. Our military actions called attention to our program and our plans for the people. Our strategy brought us dedicated members, and it gained the respect of the struggling peoples of the Third World. Most important, it raised the consciousness of black and white citizens about the relationship between police and the minorities in this country. It is difficult to realize now how much police relationships with the black community have changed in 6 short years. Our communities are still not free from brutal incidents and corruption, but it is nonetheless true that police departments have become more sensitive to the problems of urban minorities. Today, it is the rare police commissioner who has not tried to establish some form of public relations between blacks and police. The average citizen, too, has a greater awareness of police abuses that once were systemically overlooked. This advance in consciousness is due in large part, to our military phase. Ho Chi Minh said that military tactics made public for military reasons are unsound, while military tactics made public for political reasons are perfectly correct. We have done as he said. Our military strategies are now known for political reasons. But revolution is not an action, it is a process. Times change, and policies of the past are not necessarily effective in the present. Our military strategies were not frozen. As conditions changed, so did our tactics. Patrolling the community was only one step in our 10-point program, and had never been regarded as the sole community endeavor of the Black Panther Party. As a matter of fact, the right to bear arms for protection appeared near the end of our program, as point 7, and came only after those demands we considered far more urgent: freedom, employment, education, and housing. Our community programs, now called survival programs, were of great importance from the beginning. We had always planned to become involved in black people's daily struggle for survival, and sought only the means to serve the community's needs. But the party was sabotaged from within and without. For years, the establishment media presented a sensational picture of us, emphasizing violence and weapons. Colossal events like Sacramento, the Ramparts confrontation with the police, the shootout of April 6, 1968, were distorted and their significance never understood or analyzed. Furthermore, our 10-point program was ignored and our plans for survival overlooked. The Black Panthers were identified with the gun. Eldridge Cleaver identified with other negative aspects of the party. It is not a coincidence that he joined the party only after the Ramparts confrontation. What appealed to him were force, firepower, and the intense moment when combatants stood at the brink of death. For him, this was the revolution. Eldridge's ideology was based on the rhetoric of violence. His speeches abounded in either-or absolutes, like either pick up the gun or remain a sniveling coward. He would not support the survival programs, refusing to see that they were a necessary part of the revolutionary process, a means of bringing the people closer to its transformation of society. He believed this transformation could only take place through violence, by picking up the gun and storming the barricades, and his obsessive belief alienated him more and more from the community. By refusing to abandon the position of destruction and despair, he underestimated the enemy and took on the role of the reactionary suicide. Long before Eldridge's actual defection from the party, He had taken the first steps of his journey into spiritual exile by failing to identify with the people. He shunned the political intimacy that human beings demand of their leaders. When he fled the country, his exile became a physical reality. Eldridge had cut himself off from the revolutionary's greatest source of strength, unity with the people, a shared sense of purpose and ideals. His flight was a suicidal gesture, and his continuing exile in Algeria is a symbol of his defection from the community on all levels: geographical, psychological, and spiritual. From a dialectical point of view, something positive has arisen out of Eldridge's defection. While he and his followers still identify with aspects of the party that once alienated us from the community, the party has moved in a different direction. He has taken the media's image squarely upon his own shoulders. We are glad to be free of the burden. What little we lost in credibility, we have gained in wider acceptance of the party by the community. We have reached a more advanced state. There has been a qualitative leap forward, a growth in consciousness. Camus wrote that the revolutionary's real generosity towards the future lies in giving all to the present. This, he says, grows out of an intense love for the earth, for our brothers, for justice. The Black Panther Party embraces this principle. By giving all to the present, we reject fear, despair, and defeat. We work to repair the breaches of the past. We strive to carry out the revolutionary principle of transformation. And, through long struggle, in Camus' words, to remake the soul of our time. End of chapter.